Thanks so much for listening to No Lions Here with me, Big Panda. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to No Lions Here. My name is Big Panda, and I'm a recovering sex addict. On today's show, I am honored to host my distinguished guest, Dr. Michael Barta, a PhD level professional counselor, certified sex addiction therapist, and certified clinical partner specialist. Dr. Barta's extensive training in trauma treatment, including brain spotting, EMDR, and somatic experiencing, has positioned him as a trailblazer in the field. Not only has Dr. Barta served on the board of the Society for the Advancement of Sexual Health, but he is also a nationally recognized speaker, sharing his expertise on both substance and process addictions. Throughout his illustrious career, he has provided captivating lectures and trainings for therapists, delving into the realms of sexual addiction and compulsions, neurobiology, and neurobiological treatment models. Dr. Barta's approach is marked by exemplary clinical skills and an approachable communication style. His effectiveness is further amplified by his personal journey of recovery, ensuring that he comprehensively addresses the needs of each individual and couple under his care. Pioneering research and practice have led Dr. Barta to develop treatment programs that identify trauma as the root of all addictive behaviors. His groundbreaking work addresses compulsion and sexual addiction behaviors through a neurobiological lens, seeking and healing the traumas that underlie addiction. Today, Dr. Barta will be sharing some insights on his latest neuroscientific model, IDP, which specifically targets the areas of the brain and the nervous system impacted by trauma. This innovative model extends its reach to a broader spectrum of addictions, including drugs, alcohol, and other compulsive behaviors resembling addiction. Furthermore, Dr. Barta is extending his knowledge by offering on-site training in the neurobiology of trauma and addiction to counseling practices, treatment centers, and organizations eager to integrate the transformative IDP. As if these accomplishments weren't impressive enough, Dr. Barta is also the author of the acclaimed book Tinsa, a neurobiological approach to the treatment of sex addiction, published in 2017. He is the visionary creator of the Tinsa model, a significant contribution now owned by the Integrative Life Network based out of Nashville, Tennessee. Get ready to delve into the depths of trauma, addiction, and the cutting-edge IDP model as we welcome Dr. Barta to No Lions Here. Dr. Barta, thank you so much for joining us on the show. I'm really excited to have you on.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be here with you.
Yeah, so jumping in, so obviously back when I went to Begin Again Institute back in 2021, I think that you were still kind of overseeing everything. And that was the Tinsa model that I have here. You know, that was my introduction to recovery, sexual addiction, and kind of the whys behind it. And what was so great about your model for me was it explained the whys. I had knew that things had happened to me in my childhood through sexual abuse, seeing sexual abuse in the family, and then also kind of partaking in some of that with some of my brothers growing up, that I had figured, oh, you know, I was exposed to sex at an early age. This was my idea of love and affection. And okay, so this has kind of led to why I do what I do today. But I didn't realize all the other stuff, like the little traumas and the not getting what I needed from my parents. So combine all those together, and I had a really clear picture of why I was doing what I was doing. And so I'm really grateful for your model and for you coming up with this. I mean, it was a game changer for me. Absolutely.
I'm happy to hear that. I really am.
Yeah. So, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you know, what led you, not only we'll get into what kind of led you to the Tinsa model, but what led you to even want to do any research on this at all and get into this field?
Well, like you said, okay, so I'm in recovery as well for sexually compulsive behavior. And that started in 2007. All right. And I got sober from drugs and alcohol in 1986. And then, like the whack-a-mole game that addiction is, We will, if we don't find and heal the root cause, we're going to find other ways to deal with the root cause without actually addressing the root cause. And so that's when the compulsive behaviors and my addiction, sexual addiction started. And it kept going, right? So in 2007, when I finally went to treatment for sex addiction, I went to a 30-day inpatient facility, all right? It was very similar to my drug and alcohol experience back in 86. And what I was taught there was the same thing that I was taught in 1986. This is what you need to do. You need to stay away from the behavior. And I'm like, okay, if I could stay away from the behavior, I would not be here. So why are you telling me to stay away from the behavior?
Amen. Yeah.
When I came back, I took a little time off. I then decided to go into this field. And so I called up Patrick Carnes' organization and I said, what do I need to do? And they just said, well, come take the training. So I started taking the training. And I did that training back then. It took about 2.5, 3 years to complete. And I started seeing patients, and it was a great thing. I mean, I loved the work. I was seeing the people that I was working with struggling with the same things that I struggled with early in recovery, of not really understanding why these triggers and urges were still present. And there was also quite a high recidivism rate with the clients I was seeing. And so I'm looking into this and I'm like, this isn't working. Drugs and alcohol were easy to put down because I didn't have to go into the bar. I don't even know where a dealer is anymore, but sex addiction is alive and well in the head. And, that's what it is. We're master chemists. We will use behaviors to get high. And so I started looking at this and I'm thinking, you know what? A behavioral approach alone is not going to work for this. So I started studying neuroscience to look at what's going on. And luckily, exactly at the same time, this guy got big named Dr. Stephen Porges. And he had created this model studying the autonomic nervous system, and he called it polyvagal theory. So he really broke down the nervous system in understandable terms. Now we're talking about the autonomic nervous system, not the whole nervous system. And from that, it just kind of fell together. It was like, oh my God, this is what's wrong. This is what really is going on inside of me and inside of people that make them look outside of themselves in order to try to control this system that's going on. So the further I explored in that, the more I started building a model. That started about in 2011. Tinsa was probably finalized in 2015, and then it took me a couple years to write it. And then that's when I started an organization called Begin Again Institute. Now, I'm not with Begin Again anymore. I left them in 2021. But I'm working on my own now. I'm doing my own intensives. People that come to me just work with me. They don't work with the staff. I love it because I want to be in with the people. And, my newest model takes the findings of Tinsa, right? The neuroscientific evidence in Tinsa. It uses that, but it's expanded to also really talk about healing the autonomic nervous system. So I loved how you said Tinsa gives us the why, right? That was the intention of the book. My newest model, it's called IDP right now, is not only giving us the why, but definitely how to heal the why. And I'm doing that in a week-long format right now. I get to see 8 guys once a month, and we go through this new model, and hopefully it's changing lives for the better.
Wow, that's awesome. And I was looking on your website, before having you on to look into that a little bit more. And I got to tell you what, I'm interested. I'm very very interested in what you got going on out there, and would love to look into it a little bit more. Now, did you think when you started coming up with Tinsa, did you ever think that it was going to be, you know, such a key thing for addiction today, and the lives that it's touched and changed?
Had no clue. I had no clue. I was doing it, and it's really hard to say, okay, because it's kind of a blur, and I don't know how to say it other than I think it was I was inspired to write it. Okay, it came through me. I don't know how much I really had to do with it. I think I took the information and synthesized it, but I really think that it came from my higher power.
Absolutely.
And so that's what I want to give credit to, right? That, you know, I wasn't really thinking how it was going to change. I was just writing. And the more I worked with it and the more people got involved and started doing the treatment and telling me the changes they were making in their lives, I knew something was really here. Something was really working. And I wanted to continue with that, right? And TINS is never going to be done. TINS is a great model. It's wonderful, but since 2017, there's so much new research, right, that can be applied to the neuroscientific principles of Porges and the other people I used as a platform for that book to help a lot more people. And like I said, I'm now more interested in getting people to what you learned in your treatment of why this is occurring. But now I'm more interested in saying, okay, this is why it occurred. This is how it's changed you. But now, in this intensive that we're doing right now, right, let's start healing that immediately so that you can walk out of there knowing how to utilize and have agency with your brain and autonomic nervous system rather than allowing it to continue to run you. Because one of the biggest changes I've seen, and I wish I would have brought a picture with me, but I didn't bring it, is I have a picture that I use with clients a lot of a brain and autonomic nervous system that's been dissected. Okay. And I show this picture and I say, it looks like an alien. Okay. Because it's all weird looking. And so what I say is this alien looking thing inside of us is really what is responsible for everything we think, we say, and we do. And how that little alien looking thing inside of us was formed in its early environment is how it's going to respond to life.
Mm.
Now, I'm going to just continue with this alien concept,
Okay.
brain autonomic nervous system. Uh, it has one purpose, and its purpose is safety.
Mm.
It's our greatest need. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But it protects it. It gives us safety in two ways. It can either give us safety by having the ability to connect with other people, which is called co-regulation, which gives us an internal sense of regulation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or it can protect us by blocking connection and running things on our own. Okay.
Mm.
There's one component in that system that's highly, highly important, and that's what we're healing, right? And that's called our social engagement system. I don't want to get too much into the
Sure.
neuroscience right now because, maybe people haven't heard of this. But this system that's in us, it's in our face, our head, it goes down, it connects to our heart, it's, connected to the brain. That system is what I've found has been damaged or maybe even never turned on in the people I work with,
Mm.
because it has to be turned on through intimate co-regulation connection with another person. You could use the word attunement. So I'm finding a lot of my clients really never had that system turned on. Therefore, they were never able to really connect and feel a sense of internal security and regulation. And what's a smart person going to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to find ways to feel regulated. So we're going to do that with sex. We're going to do that with drugs. We're going to do it with alcohol. We're going to do it with food. All right. They give us a sense of regulation, but the problem is they only give it to us while we're doing it.
Mm.
It's not really meeting the needs that we have. All right. So every time we're doing it, we're actually re traumatizing ourselves because we're not really giving ourselves what we need.
Mm.
So the whole focus is how to reactivate this thing if it's ever been activated and start really using it in the safe environment of my intensive so that people can, start strengthening that system and get it going. Because the social engagement system is the braking system for the autonomic nervous system. If we have a strong social engagement system, our sympathetic isn't going to be flying all over the place.
Mm.
We're not going to live in fear and anger. We're not going to be so easily, knocked off the beam and triggered. And then, finally, I can't take this anymore. I need to just go act out. Right. So I don't know how I got on that subject, but that is, basically where this has gone since 2017.
Yeah, it is. That's really interesting, and it's got my brain just kind of like whirling, and the gears are spinning because yeah, that's safety, right? Like I get sometimes I get really frustrated with myself because I can't stop my brain from going to my brain loves to problem solve, loves to try to problem solve, and I can get over obsessed with these thoughts and how do I get out of it? How do I get out of it? And then I get frustrated because I lose focus on other things that I should be doing because I feel trapped.
Yes.
I feel so trapped in my head and that I
And
just can't find a way out.
this is perfect because what you're saying is the social engagement system is not functioning correctly at that moment. Being trapped is sympathetic, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
fight or flight.
Yeah.
So then we're spinning, but we're spinning without consciousness
Mm.
because social engagement system is consciousness. It's presence, it's calm, it's solution, right? So I love the way that you just said that because all of this can be explained. And when a person learns that, say in your case, you're spinning and you're like, wait a minute, this means I'm in sympathetic. Now, what do I need to do to get back into my social engagement system? And we we have techniques, right? We
Yeah.
have things like that. But and the more we use them, the less we're going to go out of that system. All right. So that becomes our normal way of functioning. And if there are normal people in the world, I don't know if I know any, but they have the capacity to keep their social engagement system online. which means early in their environment, they got what they needed for that system to activate, form, so inform so that it functions correctly, right? I don't know about you, but I know I never had that system turned on because in elementary school, I thought I was a freak. I didn't fit in. I'm different than other people. I was totally insecure. My basis was I'm inferior, right? And all this comes up to very simply the being terrified of rejection
Mm.
because rejection is absolutely the opposite side of the coin to safety or security, right?
Mm-hmm.
That noise inside of me that was created from that had me search, not consciously,
Mm-hmm.
for ways to feel better. And I found them, right?
Yeah.
I did sexual behaviors when I, just playing around when I, was a kid. And I could mood alter with that. I didn't know I was mood altering, but I did know that when I did those behaviors, that internal noise, that agitation was not present.
Mm.
So I was actually training that alien inside of me to take care of itself. And I didn't need anybody, right? I did not trust connection because the people who were supposed to be connecting with me and attuning with me and helping me, one was not present and the other was so overwhelmed that she was abusive.
Mm.
So my first experience, that alien's first experience with connection, was painful.
Mm-hmm.
So the alien learned, do not connect.
Mm.
You will experience pain. And that goes into this whole thing. And I'm really getting way more and more into this being intimacy disorder, and that our sexual behaviors are symptoms of our intimacy disorder.
Mm-hmm.
And the treatment models, and going back to what I said earlier of why I created this, was all the programs around me at the time when I was creating it. Let's say you have a rash on your arm. Well, they were treating the rash, but they weren't treating what was causing the rash.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm like, we got to treat what's causing the rash. And so that's how this was born, right? It's like, we got to find out the cause, the problem, the why, and heal from that rather than trying to, just do things to alleviate the rash,
Mm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. I want to go back to, you brought up a word that really, really hit me, and it's been a big part of my life: rejection. Rejection. And I never really understood in all the work that I've done in almost, I don't know, almost 3 years in recovery. It'll be almost 3 years in it'll be 3 years in January. I still struggle with rejection. I struggle with fear, a lot of fear, in that fear of rejection, and I have been hard to find where that fear of rejection comes from. And I can relate to a lot of what you said about just being insecure, feeling inferior, I am not enough. Like, these are still things that are alive and well, the tapes in my head that play on a daily basis.
Yes.
And I really struggle to find a way out of them that can stick, that helps me.
Well, and it's important because if we take the basis that safety is our number one need,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Well, what does safety mean? Okay, it means absence of threat.
Mm.
So safety, like I said, there's two ways to establish it. There's a way to establish it when we're fully authentic, vulnerable, and connected with another person. That gives us an internal sense of security. There's the other way where we're running the show and we're not letting people in, we're manipulating, we're lying, we're gaslighting, we're doing whatever we need to do to survive. So those are all survival techniques. All right. So we go back and we find out what caused this brain and this autonomic nervous system, this alien, to fear rejection. So in my newest model, it's a need-based model, right? And what I look at for a person to have happened with them and experienced in order to have the capacity to co-regulate is they have three primary needs met. They have to have stability in their environment while the alien's forming. They have to have emotional safety, which means they were allowed to express their emotions. They had modeling of healthy emotional expression, right? And their emotions were validated. And the third need is mental safety, which is all about a person's authenticity being validated. Their thoughts, their beliefs, their dreams. They weren't afraid to be themselves. If they were themselves, they were not afraid of being rejected, humiliated, or punished. And I really look at these needs with my clients to see which ones, or all of them, which were in a state of deprivation. So my new model is all about deprivational trauma, it's called. What we did not get, right? That formed the brain and autonomic nervous system. So if we had all those three things met, we are going to have an internal sense of security. If we did not have them met, then we're going to feel insecure. All right. So that's where we start. You know, what trauma did I experience that made a deprivation in any of these needs? And then we can go forward with it. The best part about that is that we can immediately start meeting those needs on our own in healthy ways. It doesn't take other people. So when I'm feeling insecure, I just immediately go, what do I need to feel safe right now? Right? Do I need stability? Do I need to express my emotions? Am I not being authentic in some area of my life? Am I afraid to be authentic? Why am I afraid to be authentic? Well, because if I'm authentic, there's a chance of being rejected. But if I'm not authentic, I'm already rejecting myself. If I don't reject myself, I don't have the fear of being rejected by others. And so, you know, it all comes full circle in this healing of that system. I say this, and I think that if we had had the attunement, the co-regulation that we needed, this would not be here. The need to self-regulate would not be there. So it's really a problem with being able to connect with other people, being able to be authentic in myself, right?
Yeah.
So if we go to the core, right? What's my biggest fear? Well, it's being rejected. It's being left out. It's being pushed aside. That's biologically significant because we were wired that way. If you were rejected early on when we still lived in tribes and clans, you were dead. So, of course, you know, that alien inside us, the brain and autonomic nervous system, has that hardwired. Right?
Yeah.
So we really need to see, to prove to ourselves through our own actions that we really are safe. There's no threat in the present moment unless there's a tiger coming at you.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's going to happen in Boulder, Colorado, but who knows?
Yeah.
Right?
No lions here. The name of this podcast came to me while I was at Begin Again, because I remember them kind of stating that around, we didn't get what we needed. And so our brain perceived these feelings as threats on our lives. And I still remember
That's
sitting
right.
in the room and them going, guys, there's no lions here. And being like, oh, wow. So that's, again, back to the why. Okay, so my brain thought that these were physical threats on my life,
Yep.
and they're not.
Well, they were.
Right.
To a little kid, it doesn't take much for that brain and autonomic nervous system to think it's in mortal danger.
Mm.
The bad part about trauma, and I'm sorry I'm getting off the subject, is that, and what I found and what I really talk about now is trauma is an incredibly personal thing. And when it occurs, it completely changes our belief system. Trauma is taken personally. It can't be taken any other way, especially to a child who is only able to have concrete thinking. Parents can't be bad. Parents can't be doing things wrong. It's me.
Mm.
I'm wrong. I'm bad. I'm broken. I'm inferior. I did something wrong. I mean, those are how many times when something, a trauma trigger comes up, do those beliefs come into your mind? You
Oh,
know?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's like that's not what's happening. But as that system was formed, it's going to continue to operate that same way until we change it. And we can't change it without knowing first what it is and then what happened to it. Right?
Yeah.
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 I think, Freud and those guys were right in that this is really unconscious stuff we're working with here.
Yeah. Absolutely. Just realizing how I operated subconsciously for so long that, like, even I do feel like I had some awareness around, like, man, things just are just off. There's something
Yep,
that's
of
off.
course.
But of course, like, this system, this pursuit that was operating was so much deeper and bigger than I had ever imagined. I mean, now, even in recovery for almost 3 years now, even with all of the work that I've done, there's still things that pop up that I'm like, oh wow, I even with all the awareness, oh wow, there's still something there. And okay, and now
Hmm.
I get a new opportunity to look at this
Yes.
and see what's really going on, and how I can help heal this. Now, of course, the brain also wants to, okay, well, how can I heal it as quickly as I possibly can?
Yep.
How quickly can I get through the steps? How quickly can I, how many times a month do I need to see my therapist? How many days do I have to journal in a row? And, luckily I'm to a place where, like, I'm like, it doesn't work like that. And that this is a journey, not a destination. But I think a lot of guys earlier on kind of get stuck in that mentality of, all right, where's the red pill? Where's the blue pill?
Yep. And what's the right thing to do next
Mm.
in order to heal myself? Well, there's a problem with that assumption. And that if you're running around trying to heal yourself, your deepest belief is that you're broken.
Mm.
We got to start with we're not broken, brother. Okay, we were born whole and perfect. We were born with everything we needed to wire to be able to connect with other people. The problem is we were in environments and with people that could not activate that wiring. And like I said a moment ago, we took that personally. We made it about us. I'm bad. I'm broken. Right?
Mm.
That's when we reject our authenticity. Who I am as I am is not enough, is not good enough. So now I need to be someone else in order to survive. Right?
Mm.
but we weren't born this way. And that's a really big aha moment to the people that come to my intensive, is that this brain and autonomic nervous system was taught what it was. It isn't what it is. But we've really never been broken. We just believed some really good propaganda about ourselves. And we've been running that since the time, because that's what the brain and autonomic nervous system have to do to keep a sense of equilibrium. And that's why we keep doing stupid crap. Right?
Yeah.
It's because, no, this is the way this operating system's running, even though it's destroying my life.
Yeah, I just really appreciate those words again. Like, and when you said we're not broken,
No.
that like that just that hit me. That hit me.
Yeah.
I struggle a lot, and I try not to buy into those tapes. But man, those tapes are there.
Well recorded. You've never been broken. You just got taught that you were. And as children, we had no other option but to believe it. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for that perspective. Yeah, I think that's something that's been kind of running around in my mind subconsciously lately. I'm really good at distracting myself, and I talk about this a lot. Like, I'm not a workaholic; I'm a distractaholic. I love to be on the go and running, so that I'm not dealing with what's going on. I'm aware, but I'm not as aware as I really think that I am. So just hearing that, just yeah, I don't know, brought on feelings for sure. Yeah,
Good.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so thank you for that. Really appreciate that. Um, hmm. Yeah, it's what I love about doing this podcast and having guests like you on. It just it gets me thinking, right? Like, selfishly, I want to have you on so that I can learn more about what you going on. And obviously we're going to post this out and we're going to help other people and we're going to spread the message. But, selfishly, this is what I love about these conversations and these connections in this platform that I have, is that I get to have you on and we got to talk about this stuff.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah, this is really special. I do have a question around the social engagement system that you kind of spoke of.
Mm-hmm.
And in my mind, when I hear social engagement, I think of connection. I think
Yep.
of, okay, hey, let me go to meetings and let me share my story and let me connect with other people. Let me make phone calls. I need to checking in with my sponsor, being open and honest with whatever I have going on in my life. Is that part of now? And obviously, feel free to go as little or as much into, but again, my when I hear social engagement, that's kind of what I think of as some of the ways to combat that is connection, authentic connection
Yes.
with other people.
Yeah. I don't want to use the word combat it. I want to use the word heal it.
Gotcha.
12-step works not only because the steps. The more I get into this, the more Bill Wilson, who created Alcoholics Anonymous, was talking exactly like I'm talking. It was neuroscientific. They didn't have the words, but everything he does is about this. Everything he does is about healing the social engagement system. The community of 12 steps is amazing,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
I go in there, my brain and autonomic nervous system is connecting with other brains and autonomic nervous systems. That's called co regulation. So I'm in there with 30 people. I'm co regulating, right? And then there's the one weirdo guy in the back who can't co regulate, and we're like, whatever. But, uh, but for the most part, right, we go into meetings and we're sitting there in this group where it's incredibly safe
Mm.
to be vulnerable and authentic. It's so healing. Just sitting there,
Mm-hmm.
not even having to talk, right? I get to be me for an hour at a time. No judgment, you know, just I get to be me because everyone else in there is exactly like me,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting in a meeting last night, and there's this guy who's been struggling for a while, but he said, he came in the room and he sat down, and the minute the circle formed, he felt love. That's the security we're after, right?
Mm.
So, absolutely, meetings, connecting in any way we possibly can, where we're allowed to be vulnerable and authentic, is engaging and strengthening that social engagement system, which allows us to take larger and larger risks in our lives to connect with more and more people.
Mm.
It has to be retaught that not everybody's going to hurt it. And even when it's strong, if someone does tip off an old trauma, it's not going to go into a complete trauma response. It's going to be able to clearly differentiate, that's you, this is me. This doesn't mean anything about me, right?
Yeah.
So it really is just this strengthening over and over and over of social engagement, right? Because that's what's running the whole show.
Mm.
It's the part of us that tells us if we're safe or not. And when it's strong, it can differentiate real from imagined threat. So I'm not walking into a room going, oh my God, what are they thinking about me?
Yeah.
I mean, that's totally self centered, right? It's like, and that's total insecurity. It's like, it, basically what I'm saying, if I go in the meeting and I'm thinking that, I'm like, who's going to reject me first? Right? So it's that old part of us. I'm living in sympathetic. I'm not living in social engagement.
Mm.
I'm not living in authenticity.
Yeah.
And again, unless I reject my authenticity, I don't have to be afraid of other people rejecting my authenticity.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's in saying that about the meetings, I've noticed probably within the last, I don't know, 6 months or so, that I will have a rough day. It's my meeting day. I'm getting ready to. It's Saturday. I know I've got my home meeting Saturday night, at 5:30. So I know no matter what, that's where I'm going to go. But I'm having a rough day, and just I'm really struggling. And I'm like, all right, cool. Like I'm going to go to the meeting and I'm going to share this struggle because that's what I need to do. Right. That's what my program is about. And then I get to the meeting, and you start seeing people. Hey, Alex. Hey, John. Hey, Jeff. And I'm immediately filled with this sense of like, I'm okay. I'm all
Yeah.
right. Like, whatever problems I had walking into the meeting are seemingly almost gone. And
Yeah.
all I can do in my share is share gratitude.
Yeah.
And like, now don't get me wrong, sometimes it's not just that, and I am emotional, but I've really noticed lately, again, just like, oh wow, I was going to come in here and sit here with my head down and complain about what I've got going on and what I'm going through, but wow, I can't seem to find those feelings right now because I feel really full. Because as I look around this room of 25 guys and girls, I know every single one of them in here. I have every single one of their phone numbers. They all know me. We're all going to go out to dinner after this. And wow, this feels really good.
I know. It's that simple.
Yeah.
It's like it's because the our fear, our problem is between our ears,
Mm-hmm.
right? When we're connected with other people and we're co-regulated, we have an internal sense of security. You and I, without that system being on and strong, are going to feel insecure. And then, if we sit in that insecurity long enough, what you and I are going to do.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to try to get rid of that by whatever means possible.
Yeah.
You know, the longer I've been sober, the less likely that's going to happen, knocking on
Mm-hmm.
wood, because it's no longer my go to. For so long, that was all I had. That brain and autonomic nervous system was trained. This is the solution. It's a horrible solution.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel good,
Yeah. No.
right? It just doesn't. I never ever once got what I wanted out of any of my addiction,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it's all I knew. And the guys that come in and I tell them on the first day, I say, the only thing I'm asking you to do this week is give up what's kept you safe your entire life. And they look at me like, oh, right. That was our only sense of safety. And we would get it 5 minutes at a time, 10 minutes at a time,
Yeah.
right? And then the minute we were done, we had just shown ourselves how unsafe we really are. That's terror,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. And another thing that your model gave to me was it took out the mystery of acting out. It
Mm-hmm.
took out the mystery, and without that mystery, like you just said, it doesn't. It's not the same. It acting out has not been the same or felt the same in active recovery than it did when I was prior to recovery.
No.
And now even then there's still been plenty of times where I'm like, I know that this isn't going to work. I know that this isn't the best thing that I need to be doing right now. However, like I'm still going to go through with it. I'm still going to act out. And then of course on the other side of it, I'm not surprised that it didn't do what I needed it to do or what I thought that it was going to do. So yeah, taking
Yeah.
out the mystery of acting out, it's definitely, and again, all of this stuff that we're talking about, right? It all takes work too. Work to form the habits, the healthy habits. That's not just red here, take this red pill, blue pill here, read this Tinsa book, and you're going to be good to go. There's still a lot of work that needs to go into yourself and your program
100%.
in order to,
Yeah.
keep again building those healthy habits and healthy routines and healthy relationships.
Yeah. I mean, it's just taking care of
Yeah.
ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I did not do, which I did not do before. Absolutely. Yeah, no, not at
No.
all.
No.
So was it hard for you to, walk away or walk away from Begin Again? Something that you had created? Was it were you like, hey, it's just kind of time, or how
Yeah.
was that process for you?
I think I had reached a point where I had done all I could there,
Mm,
right? I also had, sold the rights to that model and I wanted to create new, right? And so I was just like, it's time for me to go on my own. And I'm much better at being a clinician when I'm the one that's being the clinician
Mm.
than trying to have other people do the work. I can't package my knowledge. I can't package the way I deliver it, right? And that's my gift to me,
Mm.
right? That it's, wait a minute, I want to do this. I have these ideas. I have a way of delivering it that I can't teach other people, no matter how much I
Yeah.
try. And I want to be able to offer that to the world myself. And so it's sad. It was sad because, I had built that from scratch. But at the same time, it was definitely time for me to move on. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense, and I just want to say again, just what you built out there and what it did for me was just.
Mhm.
You want to talk about safety? That was the safest I had ever felt in my life, being out there, being involved, and just being in a group of guys that I didn't know at all, but just the way that the program all kind of brought us together, like that safety. I have not been able to recreate the safety that I felt out in Boulder, Colorado at Begin Again.
Yeah.
It's truly was
Yeah, it was a really good program.
yeah, yeah, it
Yeah.
was.
And, you know, I also want to say that, doing the intensives I'm doing now, I've taken everything that's really, really critical. I've shortened the time, but the whole experience from the day you get there is based on using your social engagement system. So that sense of safety is compounded. All right. I gotta say that the guys I'm working with now leave, I think, with a deeper sense of security because they're practicing it on purpose the whole time they're there. And watching that is just so beautiful, right?
Yeah.
But I love that you were able to find finally a sense of safety, a sense of being accepted for who you are, where you are,
Hmm.
right? And again, I started that, and my philosophy there was, and still is with me, you're not broken. So let's get to the things that made you believe you were broken and get those the hell out of your head.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not true.
Yeah.
It's just not true.
Who would you say is, the best type of candidate for the intensives that you're doing now? I mean, is it newcomers, guys that have been in programs for long times? I mean, is there a
It's a great question. And it is so, on drmichaelbarta.com, that's my website. You fill out an application now. And then I review your application and I call you. Okay. The people who do the best, whether they're new or been in program or relapsing, are the people that absolutely want it. I will not work anymore with people who aren't 100% serious about recovery. They're not deciding whether they're a sex addict or not. They're not deciding whether they have sexually compulsive behaviors. They're not doing it to get their wife off their back. They're doing it because they want to heal.
mm,
And I can tell that in the conversations I have with people, right?
yeah.
They are serious. They're ready to change. And that's what it requires. So, anybody's welcome to apply and I'll talk to them. And I'm just hoping that they're ready. Right?
Yeah.
People who are still struggling heavily with alcohol and drugs, probably not a good candidate. Because what happens is that, you know, until all addictions are addressed, we're going to continue to use, and we can't heal trauma while we're still using substances or behaviors to cover up the trauma.
Mm.
But that's a great
Yeah,
question.
that makes a lot of sense, and I absolutely believe that you can 100% tell where how serious somebody is about it just through a phone call, just through
Oh
a
yeah,
conversation. Because I see it in the rooms all the time. You know, how serious are you? And I try to surround myself with people that are serious about this, that are going to keep
yeah,
coming back, because that's going to help me. Because I know I'm going to keep coming back. I need this in my life. I don't
that's
I
right.
don't want to go back to the old ways. I really don't. I don't. So I try to surround myself with people that try to make this a way of life.
I love it.
That's really what you have to do. It doesn't mean that it's every waking minute, every 24 hours, but people that
Yeah,
that want this and to want to
and
heal.
it doesn't. Yeah, and it doesn't mean you're bad if you're not ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just means you're not ready,
Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing
right?
too. Yeah. Hmm.
It's kind of like, they talk about in Alcoholics Anonymous the gift of desperation.
Hmm.
Am I desperate? Do I really want to change? And once we start down that path, it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
It's like, why didn't I do this 10 years ago? I have guys, why didn't I do this 30 years ago? Right? Well, because we weren't
Yeah.
ready.
Hmm. It happened when it was supposed to happen.
100%. Always does.
Yeah. Yeah. I know for me it took a little bit of a lump on the head, but I
Yeah, I needed a 2 by 12
yeah.
across the back of my head.
I used to get jealous of guys in the program that were like, "Oh yeah, I just woke up one day and was like, you know what? I think I have a problem with porn, and I should probably look into this." And now I don't get jealous anymore, but it was like, oh, I that didn't work for me. I needed, like you said, I needed a 2 by 12, a couple of them across the head, the back, the leg, in order for
Some
me.
of us are really good justifiers, right? It's not that bad.
I'll be all right. Once I find that
Life's just
person,
falling down around me, but I'm okay.
once my big one was once I find the person I'm supposed to be with.
Oh yeah.
And you say that in a room and you look around at all the guys and all of them are like, yep, 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 yeah, yeah.
Yep, we tried it all.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. Barta, I want to be mindful of your time. Where can people find your information? And I'm definitely going to put a link in the description for this
Oh,
episode,
thanks.
to your website. But where can people find
Yep.
you?
All they need to do is type in drmichaelbarta.com. All one word, right? That takes you to my website. That takes you to the application. Fill out the application. You get a phone call from me. We discuss your problem and see if I can be of assistance to you.
Yeah, yeah. I'll
Okay?
definitely, like I said, I'll definitely put that link to that in the
Yeah,
description
it's
for
easy
this
easy
episode.
to find me.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
Dr. Barta, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. It really means a lot to me. I'll be honest, when I started this show 2 years ago, you were on the list back then to have on the show, because you were essentially a big inspiration for me starting this show and wanting to spread the message and tell my story. My idea of freedom is to put my name and my face on my story and say, I don't care what you think about me. I'm okay with me
Love that.
that's freedom to me and what I want in my life. So you've been on. You can ask my business partner. You've been on the list of people to ask to come on this show since I started 2 years ago. So
Well, thank you.
I'm really, really happy to have you on, and I definitely would love to have you back on in the future and just
Sure.
continuing the conversations. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. Any message to anybody out there that's still struggling?
Mm, well, my biggest message, I've repeated it several times today, is people suffering think that they are broken and unworthy and invaluable and unlovable sometimes. I want people to know that's never, ever been true. That those beliefs were taught to you. And the sad part is, once they're taught to us, we start proving them true.
Mm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we can stop proving them true, we get back to who we really are.
Yeah.
That authentic baby that was born whole and perfect. There's never been anything wrong.
Mm.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, again, thank you.
I'm honored. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. And as always, everybody, remember, it works if you work it, and you're worth it. Keep coming back. Thank you so much, Dr. Barta. I really appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
The unknown success.